Hello YouTube, we have a lot to get to today, so let's just start with taking a look at the markets before we go into these articles that you see open up already up here. Now let me refresh this quickly because we want up-to-date information. Now we see a beautiful sea of green again. For the first time in a while we see everything up pretty much uniformly, with only Dogecoin, Doggycoin, whatever you want to call it, and Lisk going down in the top 25. Actually, those are the only ones in the top 50 going down. Everything else is seeing growth between 1 and about 30%, with most coins hovering around 5%. So that is very, very beautiful to look at. We have of course seen the markets crash in the last couple of weeks and slowly try to recover. It's looking like that recovery is gaining steam now, with some coins returning from yearly lows such as Ethereum, which hit its yearly low a couple days ago and has since then shown spectacular growth, up another 8.44% today. We see Ethereum well above $200, $225. Bitcoin above 6,500 at $6,544. XRP back above 28 cents. We saw it below 27 cents for a while there. Bitcoin Cash heading towards 500, and EOS well above $5 again. It was getting pretty close to falling below $5 in the last couple of weeks. And of course other coins also doing well. Special note here goes to Tezos, I think that's how you pronounce it, which has seen 28% growth, and we're going to talk about why in a bit. I have an article about that open. And everything else is moving as you would expect it. All the markets recovering. We see the market cap at 204 billion, almost 205 billion again. That is significantly up. Just yesterday, I believe we saw it just ever so slightly above 200 billion. And a couple days ago, it was down at 190 or so. So significant growth there. And also Bitcoin dominance fallen from almost 57% to 55.3%. This is showing us that altcoins, as expected, are recovering a bit more than Bitcoin itself. We see it here, Bitcoin only up 1%, but then the coins below it, 8, 2, 1, 3, 2, 7, 6, 4, 3. They're all up more than Bitcoin pretty much. And this is what we always see when the markets are performing well again. We see everything else doing better. And on the flip side, when the markets are falling, we usually see Bitcoin falling a bit less than other coins. It just has less volatility now. So looking pretty good, the markets. I think in the short term we will see more growth at this rate. I don't have an analysis article open today because there hasn't been one posted that is up to date yet. They are the ones from yesterday, but a lot of them already predicted the prices to take a downward turn from what I've seen, and that didn't happen. In fact, the prices broke many resistances in the last 24 hours, but I'm still gonna wait to have a professional analysis of them before I say more about that right now. Now, first article, we have a prediction here that Bitcoin will reach $8,500 by end of the year, and that the ETF approval, if an approval happens, will cause a bull run. Let's read this together. As always, the links to all articles will be in the description, so if you want to, you can read along or read the whole thing later. I don't read the whole article, I just read parts of them usually. This one is short though. Travis Team, a firm offering software that predicts market movements, recently offered their opinion on the price of Bitcoin. While the cryptocurrency market has been seeing bullish news lately, the price continues to exhibit sluggish movement. Bitcoin, the top cryptocurrency, is currently trading at the $6,500 mark after a series of sharp drops last week. Goldman Sachs stated that they would delay the plans of its cryptocurrency trading desk, leading to a widespread sell-off due to FUD. To my knowledge, they didn't announce anything there, right? Didn't that completely... Wait, we got, the fake news we got was that they cancelled their trading desk. But to my knowledge, we haven't received any real information about their trading desk. So I'm pretty sure they haven't stated that they're delaying it either. Have I missed a piece of news here? Am I getting confused? Because this seems inaccurate. Anyway, let's continue with the article for now. However, Travis claims to have predicted the price of Bitcoin by the end of 2018, putting it around $8,500. Their predictions are based on the overall transaction volume for Bitcoin and the total number of users on the blockchain. Moreover, their predictions when backtested are reportedly 94% accurate as stated on their website. Now, you have to be careful with information like this. This is the information they're providing on their website, so probably either their own calculation or commissioned by them. I would like to see someone assess how accurate their predictions were. that is not tied to them in any way. Now, it could be that they actually had that they hired a company that that's impartial. But from this article here, and there's of course no link provided here. There's no source. From the article here, this sounds like something to be careful with. They utilize the principles of supply and demand to fundamentally determine the price of Bitcoin. Well, duh, that's how you that's how you deal with markets. The cryptocurrency, with its capped supply and deflationary system of bringing new coins into existence, has a supply system that would help the case of its price rising. The two variables that Travis has considered to calculate the demand is the number of active users and the amount they transact. It is actually an inflationary system if you're bringing new coins into existence. There's a lot of errors and things that are questionable in this article. According to these calculations, they expect the price of Bitcoin to undergo a 30% increase over the year, quoting reasons such as the general sentiment dictated by the news. This, according to them, was the reason for the price to go up to $20,000 late last year. They also stated that the price has moved in tandem with news, with dips being observed when exchanges were hacked and when the United States Securities and Exchanges Commission denied applications for an exchange-traded fund. But then we had the next time when they denied application and it didn't even do a dent in the prices. So, what are they saying here? According to Travis, the creation and general lobbying of the Blockchain Association will also create a more positive view for regulators. They stated that the approval of the ETF by the SEC is one of the biggest catalysts for the growth of Bitcoin. Well, we haven't gotten an approval yet. It represents a huge potential upside for the price of Bitcoin. A market analyst stated, while the market still responds sluggishly to a lot of the news coming out right now, the base is gradually being built. At the same time, last year the cryptocurrency market did not have many of the things it required for mainstream adoption as an asset class. We have made considerable progress on that end, but the price is only likely to move when actual changes occur in the market with respect to adoption. Now, I find this article very questionable in many ways. We've just gone through it. But I think that analysis appears more or less valid to me. Now, I would like to see more information, of course, but from what they quoted here and the prediction number, I think if we get an approval for a Bitcoin ETF, that could very well push the prices to 8,500. That is very much within the realm of the realistic. We have already seen the prices climb to, what was it, over 7,000? A couple of weeks ago. We were halfway there already, and that was without good news like that coming out, so I think that is perfectly rational. Next up, we see some whale movement. Somebody just transferred $193 million worth of Bitcoin from $1 billion wallet. Players in the Bitcoin market are anxious to dig up anything they can about a Bitcoin whale spotted doing something that could potentially impact the market, especially seeing as the Bitcoin market has been running between bears and bulls as of late. Crypto investors spent the better part of an early Thursday trying to understand the motive behind the movement of about 30,000 Bitcoin from a huge wallet that's also believed to hold a further 168,000 Bitcoin. In fact, there wasn't just one transaction spotted. Now, we don't have to go through the whole thing, but this is just to have you guys warned. If someone is moving 30,000 Bitcoin, 192 million at the current price, that means there is a very high chance that someone is planning to dump all of them, and a dump of $192 million worth of Bitcoin could push the price down significantly. So if you see the prices crash by 5, 10, 15% in the coming days, don't fear, that might just be someone dumping coins. Now remember like a week and a half ago, when the market slid down, a big part of that was someone shorting a lot of Bitcoin at once. A lot of Bitcoin were being shorted and then fake news was released. And we might see that again. We might see someone trying to sell off 30,000 at once, maybe in a plan to crash the market to then rebuy them at a lower price. So if you see a crash like that in the coming days, just keep in mind that might be just one person selling off a lot. It might be someone trying to manipulate the markets. It doesn't necessarily tell you anything about general sentiment or about where the markets are going mid or long term. This is always something to keep in mind. The markets are much bigger than they were before, but billionaires still have enough money that if they have a lot of crypto holdings, they can single-handedly move the markets. That is very much still a possibility. So just be warned about this if you see something happening that you know this might be what's going on. And then the interesting part was that whole transaction only cost 19 cents in transaction fees. showing that even Bitcoin, which is famously expensive and slow as far as cryptos go, can have low transaction fees when everything is working the way it's supposed to. That is a lot lower than any bank transfer. Even with the best conditions, a bank transfer of such a high amount is never just going to cost 19 cents. Next up, Tim Draper predicts total crypto market cap of $80 trillion in 15 years. Wow, that is a crazy high number. Because depending on whose estimates you go by, $80 trillion is just about all the worth of all the value of all the money in the world. Like, according to CIA estimates, there are just about $80 trillion worth of money in the world. And that's not just paper money, that is also hypothetical money, that is financial products. So according to CIA numbers, $80 trillion is the value of all the money in the world. And Tim Draper here is predicting that crypto will hit that same value in the next 15 years. Now it's important to keep in mind there are other estimates, there are other ways to estimate, there are other ways to count. But that is what he's predicting here. Just wanted to give you guys an idea of how high that number is. Speaking at the Deal Street Asia PEVC Summit 2018 in Singapore, Draper argued that the significant slide in the cryptocurrency market in recent months is attributed to people who have not adopted digital currencies as a new asset class. Draper stated that once people become more familiar with the technology, it will transform many important industries globally. I think we can all agree with that. His quote, "I think it's going to have such a transformative effect on industries that we never even imagined would be transformable. The internet went after industries that were 10 to 100 billion dollar markets. Cryptocurrency will go after trillion-dollar markets. These are finance, healthcare and insurance, banking and investment banking, and governments." In January 2018, Barron's reported that the Russell 3000 index, which accounts for 98.5% of the entire US stock market, was worth $30 trillion. The staggering amount of money followed a successful year in 2017, in which the market experienced 22% returns. Draper also compared the current state of the crypto market with the early days of internet, saying the internet started in the same way, it became in big waves, and then it came in big waves, and then it kind of came crashing down, and then the next wave comes concentrated but much bigger, and I suspect the same thing will go on here with Bitcoin. Brian Kelly of CNBC's Fast Money compared cryptocurrency to the internet in the 1980s as well, pointing out that Bitcoin is still in its early stages. Kelly asserted while he used to see crypto as comparable to the internet in 1995, he now understands that a better comparison is further back. He added, "I think this technology is going to work, it's going to be game-changing, but it's very early days, so we can have this massive volatility." Now, I don't know how well versed you are in internet history to understand what they mean with 1995 and with 80s. By 1995, in most developed nations, pretty much any consumer could get internet access, but not everyone had it. But by 1995, internet was becoming mainstream. Some of the large websites we know now launched around that time. Like, I'm pretty sure Google launched around 1995. Some other companies came later. Amazon came, I think, in 1998. But late 90s were when the first internet bubble happened. So 1995 was just before the first bubble, just before internet became mainstream, essentially. It was on the border of becoming mainstream. So a lot of people compare Bitcoin to internet just before it became mainstream. But now some people are saying we should compare it to internet in the 1980s. So much earlier, with much more growth still to happen. Internet in the 1980s was pretty much just like super nerds. Like, imagine the earliest chat rooms. That was the 1980s. People were exchanging programs on disks with each other, like personally. They weren't even sending it over the internet. There were chat rooms that only people like connected to universities and stuff could even get on, because there was no such thing as an internet of the masses yet. So essentially, sorry, very dry air today. Very dry air, it hasn't rained here in weeks. Essentially what they're saying is right now, cryptocurrencies are at that point where a lot of nerds are getting into it, where a lot of the infrastructure is being built up for mainstream adoption, but where we're still so early that so much growth is still going to happen. And I'm not sure how far I agree with that. I think we are significantly closer to 1995 than we are to the 80s, I believe. Internet in the 80s, most people didn't know what it was. But at this point, cryptocurrency has gotten so much attention in mainstream media that I believe it's closer to mainstream adoption than internet in the 80s was. I think we're probably somewhere between the two. We're probably in like 1992, which is still massive amounts of potential growth. I mean, if you compare the internet in the early 90s to the internet now, that is a massive difference. That's like 100-fold difference. So if all of that were to happen, yeah, maybe we will reach 80 trillion. I think that's a very, 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 very optimistic estimate. But who says if the world really changes in such significant ways and if crypto can move the world in the same way that the internet did, it might be an entire new technological revolution and it might overthrow everything. And in that case, yes, the markets might actually be worth 80 trillion. Now, I'm going to put a large asterisk next to this. You know, I don't like to overestimate. I prefer to underestimate. I prefer to be a bit more conservative with my estimates. So I'm not going to say this is impossible, but I think you shouldn't count on it. Don't invest with the certainty in mind that this will happen. Keep it in mind as a possibility if everything happens in a very extreme manner. Next up, we have some news about what big crypto companies are doing. Coinbase, their new New York City office, is hiring 100 people. Now, we're not going to read this whole thing because it's an interesting article. Obviously, you can read it. I'll link it in the description. But the interesting thing to take away from this is we see all these giant crypto industry companies, all these big players, just hiring more and more people. They're hiring like hundreds of people every couple months. We see, I think it was Bittrex who was opening offices in other countries. We see Binance pushing to other continents. Like all these exchanges, all these big crypto companies, they're hiring a ton of good finance people. They're hiring a lot of technical people. They're hiring a lot of engineers. They are going out into the world, and if these companies are growing at such an exponential rate, that is a good predictor for how the crypto markets as a whole are likely to move, or at least how they expect them to move. Because they wouldn't be like doubling their staff everywhere if they didn't expect to be pulling in at least double the money in the near future. They're expecting to need all these people, meaning they're expecting a lot more money to flow into the markets, and I agree with that. I think 2019 is probably the year we're gonna see the biggest push for crypto yet, especially with a lot more regulation coming out right now. A lot of crypto products are being prepared by major banks, by major exchanges. I think we're going to see a lot of movement in the next 12 to 16 months. And these companies hiring a lot of new people, opening new offices, going into new continents, that is an early sign of that. Now, next up. In a couple days, the Tezos Blockchain is officially launching. Now, the blockchain has been running for a while, but it was still in a bit of an experimental phase. They could still stop it anytime they wanted. And of course, once a blockchain is properly out in the world, it can't be stopped by anyone. That's a part of it being decentralized. You can't, a company can't just decide to pause it. So they're moving on to that step. Before it was experimental, it was still controlled. Now it is becoming, it is just getting set out into the world. And this is why we saw Tezos, why we saw their token go up more than 20%. Because this news was coming out. Once again, we don't have to read the whole article here, but let's read the first couple paragraphs. The experimental phase of the Tezos blockchain is soon to conclude. Announced today, the Tezos Foundation will officially launch the protocol on Monday, at which point the platform, whose token supply is today valued at more than $1 billion, will no longer be in beta, meaning it will be fully operational and run by its community. Still, the designation is admittedly a semantic one. Tezos launched a mainnet or live blockchain version of its software at the end of June, and since then its XTZ tokens have been tradable. While the blockchain was being used as intended throughout that time, with the number of network participants and stake tokens on the rise, technically the blockchain could have been paused for maintenance at any time. The person at the foundation told CoinDesk, "We have been happy to see the network operating smoothly and efficiently over these last few months. The community has been actively engaged with more than 400 validators scheduled for an upcoming cycle, and the community has been developing an array of exciting technologies." Now they're planning to have a lot of apps built on top of this blockchain, if I'm not completely mistaken. I have to admit I haven't looked into this project much yet. I will probably have to, just so I'll be able to tell you guys more if they are in the news again anytime soon. But it's always good to see projects properly launch. This means that their test has been going well, and that is always good to hear. Now next up, we see another giant moving into blockchain. BMW partners blockchain startup to develop customer lending solution. Once again, we don't have to read the whole thing, but let's just look into it because it's always good news to hear large companies moving into the crypto sphere like this. BMW Group Financial Services has announced its partnership with blockchain startup Bloom in a bid to streamline its customer journey and user experience, per a Medium post. Bloom helps to make the traditional lending process easier, hence helping to reduce the risk that consumer data is exposed to. Individuals can secure their data on their local device and apply for credit without exposing data to risk using Bloom's blockchain-based mobile application. Anyone can take advantage of the blockchain technology because of Bloom's straightforward onboarding process. Through this move, BMW Financial Services will revolutionize the way individuals apply for financing. Once again, this reads like an ad, but it is marked as news. So that is always a bit worrying when you see that. A lot of crypto news pages have this issue, that a lot of their articles very much read like press statements for the companies that they're reporting on. I don't want to imply that there's shady business going on here, that they're being paid off or something, because that would also be illegal without disclosing. But it reads very unprofessional, very, very unprofessional, and you see me complaining about this almost every day. It really reads like they just copy pasted the press statements from the companies. Sometimes they're just reporting on what these companies are saying they're doing without an ounce of critical thought. It's like an ad. I'm a bit worried about that. I think we need much better crypto reporting in the future. But they're still doing a good job. I don't want to talk them down too much. We are still in the early ages of crypto, and these websites are growing with the markets, and they're becoming more professional with the markets. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, we didn't have most of these websites, and the ones that we have had for a couple of years have become progressively better and better. They have hired more professional journalists. They have gotten editors. So it is moving in the right direction. I don't want to insult these pages here because they're still doing a great service for us as crypto fans, as investors in the crypto sphere. They are giving us the information we need. It's just if you're looking at this comparing it to more established financial news, you see a lot of red flags, a lot of issues that still need to be addressed. Some of them are that a lot of articles don't seem particularly well edited. Like you see really minor issues that happen too often. Like you see Bloom not capitalized here. It's minor things. It's admittedly very minor things, but these are the kind of things that an editor would fix. And every now and then they can slip through, but it slips through a bit too much with crypto. Like I've had a few articles where individual sentences would have 3 different mistakes in them, and it just makes you wonder, was there no editor involved here? But like I said, these websites still providing a great service. I mean, I'm reading out the articles in all of these videos. I'm getting most of my news from them. It's just they still have some growing to do until they can stand on one level with with traditional finance news, and until they look as legitimate as traditional finance news. But we're gonna get there. With the crypto markets growing, we will get there. Now, so essentially, we're seeing this collaboration here. They're working on lending solutions. Now, BMW Group Financial Services is obviously not exactly the same as the car manufacturer. They are working under the same umbrella company. They belong together, but they're not the same company, essentially. But this is very good to hear. And last but not least, this is only tangentially related to crypto, but I still thought it was very nice to see this. Brave launches legal offensive on Google Ads data collection practices. Now Brave, of course, the internet browser I'm using right now, you can see from the Brave logo up here. Brave is the internet browser by former Firefox staff. Actually, the inventor of Firefox, to my knowledge, has invented Brave as well. Or the developer, rather, because internet browsers already existed, they didn't need to invent them. But Brave, new project by the people who made Firefox. And Brave uses the BAT token integrated into their product. You can give websites you like your BAT, and it will be attributed according to how much time you spent on which website. It's a very innovative system to support content creators on the internet. And another thing that Brave is notable for is that they're very big on privacy. They are blocking pretty much everything by default. You can block more things. They only let you use extensions that have been heavily vetted. Like for Chrome or Firefox, you have thousands and thousands of extensions. And all the time you see like data breaches, you see malware coming in through these extensions, and Brave is very big on privacy and safety. And Google famously not very big on privacy. Or rather, Google keeps you private from everyone else except from Google themselves. So now they're launching a legal offensive against Google. And let us read this. We're not going to read the whole thing because it's long, but just the first couple paragraphs so we get a sense of what they're doing. I just think this is very admirable, so we should talk about it. Brave, the startup behind the Brave browser and the Basic Attention token, has filed regulatory complaints against Google and others over what it considers poor privacy protection for users in the online ads industry. The complaints, filed with the Irish Data Protection Commissioner and the UK Information Commissioner on behalf of Brave's Chief Policy Officer Johnny Ryan, Jim Kellogg of the Open Rights Group, and Michael Veal of University College London, are aimed to trigger an article in the new European General Data Protection Regulation requiring an EU-wide investigation. Now, if you haven't heard about the GDPR, it was big news in Europe in the beginning of the year because it pretty much completely changed how companies had to deal with your data. And suddenly, if you were opening websites in Europe, you got a little thing that you had to agree on pretty much every website about exactly how they're using your data. It pretty much made everything a lot more transparent, how companies are dealing with your data, what they're collecting on the internet. And Ryan said in a statement, "There's a massive and systemic data breach at the heart of the behavioral advertising industry. Despite the 2-year lead-in period before the GDPR, ad tech companies have failed to comply. The industry can fix this. Ads can be useful and relevant without broadcasting intimate personal data." As well as Google, the complaint targets all ad tech companies that broadcast internet users' personal data widely in what are called RTB bid requests. He told CoinDesk, "We anticipate that the regulators will order the industry to stop broadcasting personal data in this manner." So we see here Brave stepping up in a big way for the privacy of internet users everywhere in Europe. And I think this is admirable. I think this is beautiful. I think this makes me feel very good about using Brave's browser. And I just thought it was very, very good. And Brave, of course, being a crypto company, doing something like this will reflect well on the crypto markets in the mainstream media if this is being reported on more. So I think this is very good for our image as a community as a whole. And I'm gonna end this video here because I've been rambling on even though I didn't even have that many articles today. I hope you guys like when I ramble. And as always, all the links to the articles are in the description, as well as some ways to support this channel and my social media links. The YouTube subscription boxes are famously broken. So if you ever feel like you're not getting all my videos in your subscription boxes, following one of my social media accounts, that way you should get everything. Or turn on the little bell symbol and then you will get notifications about my videos rather than them just appearing in your subscription box. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching and I'll be back with another video probably tomorrow because I have plans later today. See you guys.